Hello and welcome to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all of the week's video game news, stories and whatever for your listening and viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital cloud on your podcast platform of choice. Joining me this week is none other than Mr. Chris.
GG's everyone, hope you're all good.
Hope you're all good indeed. And of course, Mr. Rob.
Hello, I also think you are good, but Chris said it first, so I won't repeat.
I think you're both good as well.
Adequate.
Yeah, adequate.
Yeah, I'm alright.
Yeah.
6 on a good day.
You're acceptable. And we have got a great show lined up for you this week where we'll be discussing the recent state of play, which Chris actually watched live. I didn't watch it, and I got told off. I did watch you actually take the piss out of me constantly for like an hour.
Yep. The only true PlayStation fan here on the show. You know who it is, everyone.
That's just not even true.
How many platinums you got, Richie? You want to go down this road? Yeah.
Yeah, but
you own a PlayStation 1 currently? A Vita and a PSP? Yeah, let's not go down that road.
Do you want to hear a really brutal, honest thing? I have 1 platinum, and my girlfriend got it. I didn't even get it.
Well, is that Hogwarts Legacy?
Yeah.
Fair. My girlfriend's got more platinums than me, so...
There's a reason that I was on the state of play.
Yeah. I would have been if Sony actually gave us any sort of advance notice, but I already had plans.
Mm-hmm.
Happens.
Are you dropping some news there for the audience there as well, Richie?
I think I just did. I wasn't intending to drop it, but yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Relationship, so when you see less and less of Richie, everyone, we know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the show gets cut down to like 35 minutes because he's got a restaurant booking,
it's just short. The whole GamerGuild podcast is going to be a 30-second shot.
Yeah.
Once a week.
Nah,
great show.
She appreciates my hobbies. So
and we appreciate you.
Yeah. Other than that, we do have more news regarding to Apple maybe getting into cloud gaming finally, and do we have a true successor of the Vita on the horizon? But first of all, housekeeping. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell icon so you're kept in the loop of all of great content here at GamerGuildTV, such as the aforementioned Chris covering the state of play, which we'll cover in the news topic. We have our weekly live streams where this week, Chris, me and you, we finished Halo 2.
We finished this fight.
We did.
And left it on the weirdest cliffhanger I've ever seen in a game, I think, for some time. I'm guessing without the knowledge of the Halo history, they had already greenlit and were working on a third game by the time they reached the end of this one, because I think we were genuinely shocked when we got to the final chapter and it hit a cutscene, and we were both like, is it the end? Is it not the end? Is it the end? And then the credits rolled, and I was like, oh, it was the end. It was like, okay. Like, very, very, great game, had plenty of fun with it, learning more about this world, and it's got such similarities to Mass Effect, it's insane. But then at the same time going like, well, I guess we've got to play 3 now.
Yep, we'll have to. So general thoughts on Halo 2?
The tagline for 3 is finish the fight as well, isn't it? So.
That's literally what he says at the end, so it was like, oh, he said the thing. Yeah.
Do you think it was like the made Halo 1, it did really well, so then they probably greenlit 2 and 3 back up, both together on the back of it, and decide we're going to turn this into a trilogy?
Well, you think turnaround time for games back then was like so quick, wasn't it? Like you're talking 2 years, maybe 3 at a push, as opposed to today's like 9. Looking at you, Rocksteady. We'll get to you later on in the news.
Yeah, we will. And Halo 2, I think my only criticism of it is, I think it's a thing of the time, but it does reuse assets and locations too often. Like you'll go for a room, in the next room, it's like the same as the room you've just left. It's the same if we had with Halo 1, where sometimes you go like, could you have not done a bit more here, change it up, make each room at least look unique?
Yeah.
Because it's not that big of a game.
I think it was very telling of probably the times and budget and everything. Like again, turnaround of how quick they need to get one out. But if Halo was made by Remedy after all the playing Control and Alan Wake, and we went into a room and it looked like the last room, I'd be thinking we were going through some trippy Portal shit.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's not, it is just a case of reusing assets. But I think we got turned around a couple of times because stuff looks so similar, and you can imagine the textures of a 20-year-old game.
When you're in a big open room and the fight gets a bit chaotic, you lose your bearings of where you came in and out the room.
Yeah, and again, I'm hoping by the third one they have some kind of definitive way marker of the direction we're heading in, because a lot of time we're just walking off down random avenues and go, nope, dead end, oh, we've gone back the wrong way, and then you'll suddenly snap to me, because we're playing co-op, so you'll just suddenly spawn over to our armor, and then you're disorientated even more, and it's like, what are we doing here?
I love like the in-universe explanation of like this highly elite kind of tactical military force getting lost in a corridor, and like if someone like could see them on security cameras going,
Chief, turn around, back the other way.
I think Halo 2 was a bit better at signposting because there's a point when Katana appears near like the exit where you need to go. So you go, oh, there's Katana, that's the way forward. So it was a bit better than Halo 1 than that, but I think all in all, it's actually really fun to play. Definitely aged. I think if you have the nostalgia of Halo, you'd have an absolute blast. Where I had a good time playing.
Yeah. I think we said that near the end, didn't we? If like you've got the nostalgia lens as well, the Master Chief Collection is just like everything you could have hoped for. But I'm progressively enjoying it the more I'm playing. So again, if it kind of elevates to that, I'm expecting 3 to be even better. And then we go on to all these branch off ones. There's like Halo Wars, haven't we? We've got ODST, then multiplayer, to be fair, as well. So
it's when we get to the point where you have to research what is the next actual game in the series is.
Yeah. You have to get an IGN video of the best way to play Halo chronologically.
Yeah, so actually, let us know in the comments. It's got at some point we will be streaming Halo 3. What is the best next game to play after that? Because if that's kind of the end of the trilogy, it may be actually just skip to Infinite. I don't know.
See how we feel.
Let us know in the comments what people suggest, because there's definitely people in our community, in our Discord, that are more familiar with Halo than we are. So. Very much appreciated. What would you like to see us stream after Halo 3? Don't know when we'll get to Halo 3, but it's on the cards. So, Rob, what's that with you? Been playing anything interesting?
I've got 3 things on the go, really. One, thanks to the joys of cloud gaming on PlayStation, I've been like dipping into Ace Combat 7 or 6? 7, I think. Just as like one of those games you get free, like bundled in the PlayStation Plus. Really, like, just simple game, very arcadey. I just stick the Top Gun soundtrack on in the background and just play that for, like, when I have, like, a spare 20 minutes, which is pretty nice. I'm still playing through Witcher 3, but because me and my girlfriend are doing the story together, I'm only playing that when we're, like...
She's playing, but you have to control it.
Yeah, like, she makes, like, the narrative decisions.
Yeah.
And then I just do everything else. And then she gets like pissed off when I play Gwent too much because that's boring.
Gwent's fun though.
I love Gwent.
Yeah,
like Gwent on itself is just a solid game, so I'm doing all those quests. And then finally I took advantage of the like Game Pass, and I've been playing a World War II game called Hell Let Loose, which...
Oh, yeah. It's realism, isn't it?
No, it's like more PTSD than I think you probably get in a Warzone, to be honest. Like I'm a fan of like games with like really steep learning curves and like online play and stuff like that, which is fine. But good God, that game is rough. So you go in, you have to like walk towards like where like the fight's happening. One shot can kill you. If you hit somebody, you don't know you hit them. There's no hit markers. There's no kill confirmations.
Numbers popping off.
None of that. So like, I spent about the first half an hour just walking in a field and then just mysteriously getting shot, and then that was it.
It's like hyper realistic in terms of that sense. Then
exceptionally so. And the issue is like, going into it as a Game Pass player, I'm very new, I'm very green, and like everyone else is like the community is like very developed and very strong and whatever. So you get shouted out a lot by people who take it way too seriously. So like
people like that spoil multiplayer games for me sometimes. Like
so like
when you're not allowed to be new to a game, it's like
and it's even stupid stuff like you won't automatically reload. Like, you pull the trigger on, like, your little single-shot rifle, and then it'll ping, and then you have to manually reload, like press the button. So it's stuff like that. So, like, that abuse went on for another 2 hours, by which point I think I'd seen 2 enemies and hit none. Not that I would know, because you don't get hit markers. And then, like, this guy took me under his wing and kind of... I don't know if anybody who's listening to this has
Rob's getting
watched...
groomed by some dude on the internet.
Honestly, it was like if you've ever seen Band of Brothers, there's a scene where like Captain Winters, like one of the main characters, played by Damian Lewis. He kind of like inspires this like really scared, like new guy who's like cowering in a trench to start shooting and fighting. And that's exactly what happened in this game. He was just like, get up and shoot. And I was like,
you can do it, soldier.
Yeah.
Was he full on role playing as well?
Oh yeah, he was like full on into it. So like the
Rob's
point I'm trying to make
in his ghillie suit.
I was like, as harsh and as unforgiving that game is, there are like gems in the community. So if anybody can get past the initial 5-hour learning period, you know, give it a try. It's free on Game Pass. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. That was a long answer.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
I, on your recommendation, Richie, played and got the platinum in Senua's Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, ahead of the second one coming out in May. So after your rave reviews last week, jumped in, had it on PlayStation, so I thought, why not collect those trophies, because they sat there so easily waiting for me. And yeah, had a great time. Did it with the headphones, as recommended. Had that full surround sound experience. Game's creepy as shit. Didn't realise it was so heavily Norse-inspired, actually. I think that must have been originally what caught my eye like many, many years ago. And I said before on last week's show, the reason I didn't pick it up is because the Xbox acquired the studio. And I was like, well, I don't want to play a game on my PlayStation. At the time, only having a PlayStation. And thinking, if I enjoy it, I'll never be able to get to the sequel. And now I'm in a world where I've got multiple ecosystems and I don't really care where I play it. I was like, oh, I'll just jump in anyway. So, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Surprisingly short, actually.
Yeah, it's quite short. I kind of like that length of time. I think if I paid full price for it on release, I might have been a bit... I wish there was more game to it for my money. Mm-hmm. But because I played it on Game Pass and you played it on PlayStation Plus, I was perfectly content to have a shorter experience.
Yeah. And even the sequel's only £50, and then it's on Game Pass anyway, so the sequel's kind of has the same rules applied to where if you've got it on Game Pass, it doesn't matter. Even though we know it's going to be longer, but yeah, very interesting way it kind of drip feeds you the story through the kind of rune marker stones that you find. Combat, I feel like maybe could be expanded out in the sequel a little bit.
Yeah, it was quite basic, but
I enjoyed it. I thought the character design on like the enemy creatures were very, very cool. And yeah, all the whisperings, I loved it. Like there was parts when you're solving puzzles and you would normally get stuck and you go, I might go look at a guide. Where am I supposed to be? And then the whispers in a head basically like help you out. Oh, go left. You're not doing it right. Oh, try that thing up there. And it's like it's a clever way of like feeding you through the narrative.
Sometimes it downright insults you.
Like, oh yeah. She's an idiot. She can't figure it out. She should just die. It's like, whoa.
It's an interesting portrayal of someone with like quite severe anxiety, to be honest. Like this kind of constant internal monologue, like bringing yourself down.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what does she suffer from? Because they brought experts in, didn't they?
Yeah.
For the game to go through it. Psychosis, that's it.
Psychosis.
Yeah. And at the time and the era that it takes place, is like all of her villagers and her dad think she's got like some curse from the gods and stuff, and she's got a lot of problems that realistically in today's world would just be diagnosed, and back then they're obviously just like, you're a demon, this and that, and it plays in the story really well.
When someone's got like severe anxiety, psychosis, and it's really gone for a tough time mentally, calling them a demon, shunning them is not exactly
especially in a world where like gods are evidently very real as well. But yeah, I thought the ending was brilliant, a nice twist, and then it left me wanting more. So perfect that I've not played it, I guess, until 3 months before the sequel comes out. So yeah, other than that, I'm still in this weird like, what do I play next world? I've installed Cyberpunk, Witcher's still sat there, Avatar's still sat there, and I'm like, and then Helldivers comes out this Friday, so
so probably Helldivers then.
Probably Helldivers, yeah, between work and child and everything, Helldivers 2.
Yeah, well, for me, I did finish Hellblade, I think, before the last time we recorded, so I think that was in last week's podcast. But I did start Plague Tale, and I'm just not in the right mood for it, to be honest. I'm enjoying the game, but it's quite grim and bleak, and there's times when you literally wade through piles of corpses, just like real life. It's like, I'm just not feeling this game at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, so I switched over to Persona 3. I've only played a few hours. I've pretty much caught up to where I played on my first look of Persona 3 Portable. I'm playing Persona 3 Reload, but yeah, enjoying it so far. But looking forward to playing more. So nothing particularly that interesting from my front yet, but
If only we had a list of brand new titles coming out.
Indeed, which we'll get to when, Chris, you introduce us to
the graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, a.k.a. The News.
The News. And as always, our news is brought to you by our Guild Heroes, and we have a very special Guild Hero this week, because Geek to Sneak, during your State of Play coverage, Chris, gifted 5 memberships at the silver tier, which went to CGD Games, our good friend Lee, Eric Johnson, Ray Fight Ray, Zigbone88, and Outie. So thank you, all 6 of you, for your support. It's amazing when you guys continue to support us. It really does help to keep the channel going, and we really do appreciate it. And you can obviously get early access to some content, such as this podcast, which goes live for members as soon as we've done, as soon as it's done recording and editing and stuff. We do have the occasional extra episode of here and there. Like, I think at the moment there's episode of my Ocarina of Time playthrough that is members only, which at some point before I do finally get back round to playing Ocarina of Time, I will push that for non-members.
Just started Persona 3 again.
Yeah.
So I think from now on, Geek the Sneak will now be known as Geek the Peak.
Geek the Peak.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a big shout. I think especially the start of the year, we've had like a massive boom in just like support, like out of nowhere, it seems like. And again, as our community is quite small by other standards, I think it does just really mean a lot. Like everyone out there who chips in with a super chat, who chips in with a membership, even if it is just like the bronze tier all the way through, it's again really like heartwarming that you guys are there to support us for our hobby, essentially. For as little as 99p, it just, we do like seeing your names and the numbers and stuff go up, and it's not even about the money, to be honest. We do really just appreciate the support. I'm going to apologise, I've got a bit of a cold, so it's quite difficult at the moment with blocked nose. So Chris, State of Play, you covered it. Your impressions? I did, yeah. We had about 45 minutes. It was announced short term, flipped around last Wednesday, and there was quite a lot in there. Now, I watched it along with our audience, and there was a lot of folks in the chat, and we went through it, and it was kind of like a mixed bag. I think if there's stuff in there for you, it was potentially a great State of Play. Not a lot in there for me personally. Again, I was hoping, and as we've spoke about for many, many weeks now, I was hoping to just see some first-party material, because that is my like bread and butter, is PlayStation's first party studios. It's been a while. It's been a while since Spider-Man now. We know we've got the likes of Helldivers and Final Fantasy on the horizon, but they are second party relationships. They're not PlayStation's internal studios, so I was just hoping to see something, even if it was just a tease, and seemingly they really are keeping all the cards close to the chest, potentially for a big showcase blowout in the summer, it would seem now. But yeah, we know we've got pretty much through March, April covered, but again, I'm looking to like the back end of the year. I want to be knowing what I'm playing on my PlayStation 5 come Christmas time. I'm still worried that because they changed the direction like a few years ago to be pushing more games as a service, and seem to re-change that again, and also with VR and stuff, are the first party titles that we've got so many great ones over the PS4 generation just that little bit further out? Yeah. Is it going to be maybe possibly a quiet year, maybe even year or two, while they repivot? Quite possibly, and we've seen from Xbox, it looks like it might have, like the dial might have swung the other way now, where Xbox are going to have a terrific year of first party content, and PlayStation are going to maybe play the third party cards. But credit to them though, they generally get a lot of ace in the holes when it comes to second party agreements. Like Final Fantasy, let's face it, is going to be, if not the biggest game of the year. Yeah, it's going to be in the mix for game of the year. Nominations and stuff like that, and it'll sell gangbuster numbers, and they don't make it, they just help publish it, so it's a great win for them. Helldivers 2, they kicked off with a smaller title, we've alluded to it there. I'm definitely going to jump in and play it. It's only £34.99, I think. It's online only, just stash your troopers, go kill some bugs with your friends in like a co-op shooter. So they kind of kickstart that off. Makes sense because it launches this week, so they want to get that last little promotion push in there. We saw Stellar Blade, which is something that I know we've seen like little bits of before, so they gave us an extended look. I don't know what your feelings are, Richie, but this basically just looks like Final Fantasy all over again. And actually, in a weird way, I was watching it thinking, I'm probably more into the look of Stellar Blade than I am Rebirth, because I know I would have to probably play a remake. Yeah, undoubtedly ahead of that. I know you get hung up on Final Fantasy, the numbering of it, but you would have to play a remake before Rebirth. That is absolutely, because they are part of the same game. But yeah, Stellar Blade looks looks, in all intents and purposes, like, it's got that like Japanese polish on the game. The character design, the combat is very Final Fantasy 16, just almost with like a tech cyberpunk skin over it, and like that looks cool to me.
I think it looks cool, but do you not think the character design, it just feels like unnecessarily sexualized? A bit.
Yeah,
it's like Japanese studios can't have a lead character as a woman without it just being like, how horny are Japanese people?
There's a few times during the trailer I was like, I'm going to say a one-word chat, and my one word was physics.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of jiggle physics going on from a lot of parts of the human form, to say the least. But you know what? I don't mind it. So
the thing is, it's the same with like it's why women characters don't wear much armor. It's because armor and any structure to clothing just slows them down, and
yeah,
absolutely.
Obviously,
to be a nimble warrior, you need to be in your lingerie.
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel like
if you're a man, heavy plate mill.
Yeah, the most effective armor always has like the fully exposed midriff on women, because we know obviously women don't have organs in those places like men do.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm hoping like that she is actually a well-written character, but after watching that trailer, I know nothing about the protagonist apart from she's hot.
Well, I don't think you're going to expect much from the story. It's actually quite interesting. If you think, I'll read a bit of the kind of game overview out and see if you can line it up with any blockbuster movie that you've seen before. Save humanity from extinction in this electrifying, story-driven action-adventure. The future of humanity is balanced on the edge of a blade. Ravaged by strange, powerful creatures, Earth has been abandoned. And what is left of the decimation of the human race has fled to a colony. After travelling from the colony, Eve arrives on the desolate remains of our planet with a clear-cut mission: save humankind and reclaim Earth from the malevolent force that's devastated. As Eve tackles the NA initiative, one by one, piecing together the mystery of the past as she explores the ruins of human civilization, she meets Adam and visits a place called Zion to save humanity. Almost nothing is as it seems.
So what we're getting at is the first one's going to be great, then don't bother about the other two.
It's like, and with it having like that technology twist on it, it's almost like, it's if the Matrix was was like a hack and slash girl in lingerie, but it looked great. Given it shit,
does. But it kind of reminds me in a different way of something like Tales of Arise, where I was interested in it, but Tales of Arise landed at the right time when I wasn't playing anything, so I'll give it a go and really enjoyed it. Where it's like, it's not like a priority must play, but if the timing works out, I'll definitely consider it. I'm not sure the timing will work out for me with Stellar Blade, with it being 26th of April, and with me, I've got Persona 3 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at the end of this month. I've got quite a stacked few months, to be honest, on top of anything else that I might go to play. But I am interested. But
April 26th, Matrix Reloaded comes to PlayStation,
and there's actually other stuff in this state of play that I think I might be leaning more towards. Yeah,
we also had Sonic for all the Sean Connery fans out there. Sonic X Shadow Generations, which was rumored ahead of time. It's basically a remaster of the old Sonic Generations game.
Great game,
but they've done a little bit of tweaking as well by adding Shadow in as a playable character, which everyone suspects is to tie in with Sonic 3 coming out later this year at the cinemas, because Shadow is inherently going to be a big part of that. We heard Jim Carrey's back as Dr. Robotnik this year, so getting him in the reboot of a game almost gives this old classic a bit more of a incentive to go back to. That also ties in with current audiences and I guess kids who are going to experience the movie for the first time. Brings it all together. Generations then, Richie, why is it a great Sonic game? I'm curious.
I think it was the first time in a long time that Sonic had actually produced a good game. Like, when it came out, because I remember playing it, and it's like, it does have a kind of nice mix between the more modern, like, 3D style and the 2D side-scroller stuff. And it just played really well. It was an interesting story behind it, what with, like, the way they melded, like, the classic and modern Sonics, as I kind of refer to them. It kind of just worked. It wasn't just, you're jumping in the level and now you're playing this classic Sonic. That was worked into the narrative of the piece. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It was just a really good game.
So what's the deal with Shadow then?
have no
my
idea.
Sonic knowledge doesn't go much beyond the Mega Drive. Is it just like evil Sonic, or is it a different version of Sonic?
I don't think he's evil. I think he's just edgy.
Edgy, naughty Sonic.
Yeah,
Edgy Sonic.
he's an edgy.
Did he have a gun at one point?
Yeah.
Did they give him a gun for some reason?
Okay.
I think it's like, you know, like all the emo craze in like the early 2000s. I think like that's probably when he was created. Like, oh, we need Sonic to be edgier.
Well, we did get to like him.
The 90s was all about having attitude. The 90s was all about having edge.
He did get his own game, right? Shadow the Hedgehog was a game.
Yeah, that's the one where he had guns. I never played
That's
it.
the one. Yeah, the cover art is 2005. He definitively has some kind of like rifle in the cover art for some reason.
Which kind of like breaks the entire physics of the Sonic universe if he's just gunning people down.
Well, wasn't it like Sonic 06, like Sonic kissed a human woman? It's like, it gets weird. Like, if there's any
weird.
big Sonic fans listening, let us know in the comments or head over to Discord and just explain why Shadow, what it is about Shadow, what makes Shadow good and cool, other than the fact that he's just Sonic with a palette swap.
Well, tying in with Stellar Blade, interesting enough for the movie, there's a lot of rumours saying that with him having the emo 2000s vibe, apparently Hayden Christensen's potentially touted as the casting for him.
That could actually be good if they are going like that way with it.
Or on the other side of the coin, back to the Stellar Blade, Keanu Reeves is also the other voice going around. So you've got Idris Elba as Knuckles, and then now you've got potentially one of those two as Shadow.
Are these Sonic films getting such a stellar cast?
I enjoyed the first Sonic movie. The second one, not so much.
I haven't seen the second one. I found Sonic, the character of Sonic, annoying in the first one.
It's because he doesn't have a gun.
Yeah. It was just like, I just felt like, I mean, I was an adult watching it in my 30s, so it's like, obviously it's not for me, but I just felt like, I just want you to tone them down just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I'm reading up on Shadow's personality traits, and it's...
Racist.
No,
big
Shadow,
racist.
Shadow is, bluntly put, a brooding loner. He usually acts with a cool and businesslike indifference, only occasionally showing his vulnerable side. He is rarely seen with others for an extended period of time and usually distances himself from essentially everyone. He is usually blunt and does not speak much, but he knows exactly what to say in combat. Like, if you just add not being able to keep eye contact right, like it's just Sonic on the spectrum basically, isn't it? Like, you know, put it that way. It's like that's what Shadow is. He's like, yeah.
Also, definitely ties in with Hayden Christensen's acting ability. No eye contact, no energy, no more.
Irrationally hates inanimate objects like sand.
Hayden Christensen, when he's practicing for a role, he just sits in a room surrounded by wood. He goes, "Be the wood."
Be the wood. But coming out August, so it's a bit of like an early announcement. Yeah. I thought they would have kept it maybe for Summer Games Fair. I'm sure we'll see it again. But
I mean, if it's
like
just a remaster with basically DLC, then it's not a huge announcement. It's a good one, but yeah.
Yeah. So we got Sonic Generations. We got a quick look at Zenless Zone Zero. We got a quick look at Foam Stars, which ties in with your PlayStation Plus games for this month, which we'll get into.
Yeah, I think that's one we should actually put on the stream because I think it should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's free, it's out there. It's basically Splatoon from Switch, but with, I'd say, slightly better graphics, but we'll see with it. Apparently it's quite fun, so I'm not going to write it off just yet. Dave the Diver, getting a PlayStation release on PS5, coming in April, with, randomly out of nowhere, Godzilla DLC.
Yeah. I think this could be great, because Dave the Diver was, like, so lauded, like...
Yeah, it was one of those Game of the Year nominated titles that I never got round to. Like, I tried to get through a bit of a good mixed bag of everything, and this was the one that avoided me. So
I'm hoping this becomes PlayStation Plus, actually.
Yeah, and again, the premise of Dave the Diver, for those who don't know, I'm pretty sure is he's like a deep sea diver during the day, and then he's like a businessman / entrepreneur, shop owner. So it's a combination of different genres of games into one with like a great pixel art style. So again, how Godzilla ties into this, I have absolutely no idea. But this is a game that
Godzilla will be emerging from the depths. There you go.
Is Godzilla public domain now?
It must be.
It must be close.
I have no idea.
It's 70 years, and I think
it depends because it's Japanese laws are different, aren't they? So
but I think they have it shorter than. I know the US is 95 years, but I think Japan's a bit shorter. So maybe it's.
I mean, it would make sense because he's in freaking everything at the moment. It would seem between the TV shows and movies and now games and then
Mickey Mouse.
And Mickey Mouse.
That's still insane to me. Like
100 years.
We got some VR titles, Chris. Anything stand out for you in the VR stuff?
No, not really. V Rising, and we got to look at.
Actually, V Rising isn't the VR title. That's like a top-down kind of Diablo clone, which looks interesting. But
was it? Oh, Legendary Tales is the one I'm probably thinking of, but not really a look into it. The biggest one was probably Metro Awakening for VR, so we got an insight into a Metro game fully in VR, which I think the Metro games lend themselves really, really well. I'm surprised they didn't go maybe for a collection of just the older games, like tweaked for VR.
It might just been too hard to do it, like to make the mechanics fit.
Yeah. But we know obviously Resident Evil have done it fantastic, and arguably the best PSVR 2 games are just Resident Evil parts of Village and 4. So, but again, there's just something to be said about how abandoned PSVR 2 has been. Like, I'm talking about looking to see what first party are doing for the PS5. I don't even think they're going to acknowledge PSVR 2. Like, between Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, Blue Point, like, none of them are working on anything VR from what I've gathered. So, worrying times for that one. Again, back to my thought process of, I think I said the PlayStation Portal will outsell VR 2. I'm still confident in that now.
Yeah.
What else do we get wise? Silent Hill had a bit of a tease.
Yeah, we
dropped
two Silent Hill trailers actually. We got the short message, which is come to PlayStation. Wasn't that originally dropped on mobile?
It's out now.
Yeah, it's out now.
Yeah. Short message.
It's not reviewing well.
No.
Well, I checked the Metacritic. It's like down about 50.
Yeah, that's Silent Hill for you nowadays.
Yeah. Which is
why?
It's a
so,
shame.
Rob, as the big Resident Evil fan, why isn't Silent Hill as good? Like, what's holding it back?
Silent Hill 2 is arguably that peak is better, like higher than the peak of the Resident Evil franchise as a whole. But I don't know, Silent Hill. I think they've made some questionable creative choices, which I won't go into if people want to play them in the future who are listening. The choices went a bit bad. They had like a typical, developer nightmare, as any long-standing
Konami, they have issues. I mean, Kojima left them for a reason.
Yeah, so from the high points, they've just flubbed again and again and again, and then they haven't particularly. Again, this is the same as Resident Evil. They haven't particularly treated the franchise with much care. The movie tie-ins were all universally garbage. There's some offshoot games which are also pretty bad. I don't know. They kind of just went for this quite quantity over quality approach.
Actually, to be honest, with Silent Hill at the moment, that's my worry because they kept it. Was it last year they just announced Silent Hill 2 and so it felt like they were announcing about 4 or 5 different titles all in one go. Just do one game, get it right.
Yeah, there was a movie. There was it Silent Hill J, which was a spin-off in Japan or something that was going to happen, and then there's 2 remake. Short Message wasn't even part of that announcement, I don't think. So this is an extra thing.
Yeah.
Stealth dropping it for free, but I don't know. Again in the Wii numbered thing. I think I said when they did the announcements, I don't want to play Silent Hill 2 without playing 1. So if they're going to remake them, why start at 2? Is it just because it was the most revered and they're trying to jump on that bandwagon?
I think that's it. It seems like a weird decision.
I feel like it's counting your chickens before they've hatched kind of scenario with that one. It's you've committed to several projects, but why not just get one nailed down and then build off that?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the short message, I think shadow dropping a small experience to kind of whet people's appetite can be a very good strategy if it's good. If it's bad, it's a double-edged sword. If you drop it and it's bad, then it just, now people are going to be less inclined to pay the money for the...
Because all the established fans just here we go again, this is another, we're still on this path. It does nothing to draw people back in if it's a very mid-title, which by the looks of it is.
Yeah, and then they didn't even have a release date for Silent Hill 2, so it's almost here's a free teaser to whet your appetite, but you don't know when the main course is coming.
Mm-hmm.
So if you enjoy it or if you don't enjoy it, it doesn't matter because we haven't told you when it's coming out. It ended the trailer by saying in development for PS5. Like it didn't even give like a window or a year. It's just still in development, which tells me it's still
a way out. Yeah.
And weirdly enough, like they focused on like a combat reveal, which it's never been the. I'm not saying it's bad and it's part of the game, but it's never been the main draw of a title like this. So,
like. So, I mean, this is like meant to be proper survival horror, which is survival horror. Like, yes, there's always going to be combat, but combat is usually when things go wrong, rather than the main focus.
Yeah, like how like a bat like hits an enemy isn't really like a big concern for that, right? You want to show off the ambience and like the mise en scene or whatever. So I don't know. It's just a bit of a weird choice, I think.
Yeah, well, let's move on and talk about Judas. Any thoughts?
Well,
this is from Kevin Levine, the creator of BioShock.
Yeah, it is basically BioShock 4 in a lot of ways. So he left after making I didn't think he didn't make the original trilogy. He made 1, and then he didn't make 2, but then he did Infinite, if I recall. And Judas is essentially, it looks like BioShock in space. There's a abandoned kind of space colony ship that's stuck there. It has all the BioShock trappings of like quirky, I don't want to say steampunk, but you know when like the technology is not quite what we would picture sci-fi to look like. It's got that slightly, like everything's made of copper or bronze on it almost. And it looks really, really good. Like the mechanics are very much BioShock. You've got powers in one hand, you've got weapons in the right hand, and the society aboard this colonized ship is basically collapsed in itself. Robots are kind of half taken over. There's different crews and clans. It's all gone a bit weird, and you're the kind of person trying to direct the ship back towards, I guess, savior. But in the trailer at one point you're fighting a mechanical horse and a chef while things are being sucked out through the window, and you've got fire powers and a shotgun, and it looks like chaotic fun, but again, totally trust Ken Levine. BioShock's is some of the best storytelling in games ever, and it's fun to play. So I'm curious to see what he's going to replace the big daddies with for like the big bad. Almost.
BioShock's one I could do with a PS5 remaster.
I mean, we got the collection for PS4, so I feel like it's going. How many times do you go back to that well?
As many times as you can.
Knowing, I mean, there is a 4 in the works.
And it's probably because I haven't really played them, so
I think they hold up perfectly fine. The great thing with the art style is because it is so stylized.
Yeah,
I think similar to the Arkham trilogy that we always talk about is I actually think BioShock probably holds up a lot better than a lot of old shooters because of the art style, because of the aesthetic of that steampunk world kind of style.
Yeah, it is that slightly stylized, but still looks slightly realistic kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I was thinking of a remaster, I wouldn't be thinking a massive endeavour. I'm thinking maybe just an up-res and up the frame rate a bit, that kind of thing.
Yeah. If we get a date for 4, I wouldn't be surprised if we got something like that leading up to 4, which it's got to be close now. I think Cloud Chamber have been working on it for a good couple of years. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get a tease at some point this year. Yeah,
there's a few more things left on it. Dragon's Dogma, anything you've got? Because I don't really have it much to say. I know Dragon's Dogma has got a bit of a cult hit, but I don't really know anything about the series.
Nothing for me. Look gorgeous.
Yeah.
Looks very, again, Final Fantasy / Witcher-esque, but having not played the first one, 22nd of March, very soon as well, so unless it gets rave reviews and everyone buzzes about it,
I think it's problematic for me. March is not a good month.
Yeah, I think it might just fall foul of, similar to the first one, it'll get like a great following, but I don't think it's going to blow the doors off.
It still feels like it's in the shadow of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, in March. Because that's going to be a big game. There's a good chance I'll be still playing Rebirth when this drops. That is just my similar thing with Stellar Blade. Like, it's too close to other games I prefer to play.
They look very samey, don't they? When you look at the first half of the year, like everything is hack and slash, third person, and in actually, like a fantasy world.
It drops on the same day as our next title we're going to talk about, Rise of the Ronin. So, Chris, you were worried this could be a Soulsborne game. Did the trailer at the State of Play do anything to alleviate your fears?
No, No, it didn't. It still did that thing where it showcased lots of stuff that looks very similar to Ghost of Tsushima, which is great, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But part of me is like, but it's not Ghost of Tsushima. It's
That's
like, you know, when
exactly
you
where I'm at.
when you get something like from a brand that's not the brand you're familiar with, you're like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like it, but it's just slightly off.
It looks like
And,
Ghost of Tsushima meets Assassin's Creed, but not quite. Something about it just looks not quite as good as Ghost of Tsushima.
It's the polish.
It just looks
Polish
worse
on
than every single. Sorry, like this
Yeah.
trailer killed any hope I had for this game.
I still
Like-
think it'll be fun. I still think I really enjoy it. It's just,
Would you not just rather go back and play Ghost of Tsushima?
yeah, that's the problem.
Like graphically, it just. I don't know. It just looks a bit.
You're right. Graphically, it's Koei Tecmo, so like
Yeah.
they're not a developer renowned for like gorgeous, beautiful games. Like the Dynasty Warriors ones are like probably their best, and they're usually rough around the edges to begin with. We got like
everything's a bit
Warlong was
janky
them
to
as
it.
well.
Yeah,
I think-
like, everything just looks janky. Like that fight on the bridge looks.
They did say about in the trailer showcase like the fight styles or stances, which is Ghost of Tsushima, and it was like, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised Sony went in with a first party deal with this because it's so close to one of their own IP.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, in a way, it makes me worry that Tsushima might be further away than we think. If they're
I don't
willing to
know.
do
Yeah.
like drop this year.
I think where Ghost of Tsushima is very much a 9 or 10 out of 10. This is very much a solid 8 for me. It's nothing bad I'm seeing, but I think every single way Ghost of Tsushima is just that little bit better, and it's that fine little bits of polish across every aspect of the game that just really I think elevate games at the moment. But again, I think I would quite happily play this game. No bother at all. It is definitely on my list of considerations come March.
Yeah. Reading, looking at Reddit, there's a couple of threads in there, as you can imagine, asking, will this be a Souls-like game? Game looks beautiful, but I hate difficult games. It seems like the overall feedback is the marketing has repeatedly referred to the game as accessible over and over.
Yeah.
So Koei Tecmo stated that they wanted to sell 5 million plus copies since the story of a more focused major team in any than recent memory in their studios. They're going to make it so people who want to enjoy the story won't be locked out.
That's good.
So
To
it's
be fair,
like-
I thought it does look more like Assassin's Creed than Dark Souls. From what
Yeah.
we've seen.
But then it gets into people, again, it's Reddit, so read into it as you will.
Yeah.
Someone's saying, oh, they did that with Warlong, and then someone's replied saying,
I
what
don't
about
think they did.
Warlong makes you think Koei Tecmo, Team Ninja were trying to make it more accessible?
Yeah.
And then the reply is, Warlong is extremely easy compared to other Team Ninja games. It's like, yeah,
it's
you're
not
not
wrong,
really
it's-
selling me on. You're not wrong, but at the same time, like, there's a reason I didn't finish Warlong, and I think for you as well, Rob. Like, the story in Warlong should be enough for us to play like through that game to its completion.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was so hard is the story wasn't enough for me to persist with it. And
So-
I'm worried, Rise the Run. If I see early reviews and they're just like, "Oh yeah, you died 80 times in the first few chapters," my brain will just go, "I'd rather go have fun somewhere else."
I just think Soulsborne games, all they need to do is just go like, when this game starts up, and you know when you get that initial settings, sometimes before you even get to the main menu, just have a go. This game is intended to be a difficult, challenging experience. However, if you prefer to play the story, you can't just pick story-focused mode. And
Yeah,
then
but
all
then you'll have,
enemies
like,
will
the
be
hard-
slightly easier. And
You'll have like the hardcore community like gathers around those games, like kicking off, won't you? That's,
Yeah,
like,
but-
that's the double-edged sword.
But let them kick off because you let them have their experience. You can still have the experience you want. That is the experience the developers intend.
No, these people,
And then
these
you can
people
just
don't
make
think
it-
like that. They don't think like that. They have to think like, oh, it's not enough for me to struggle. Like
They're
everyone
like
else.
their thing to be special to them and not like
It has to be
mass
like
market, like
there has to be like a what's the term, like a barrier to entry to it. I think
yeah.
that's what appeals to like. Well, I know it does because like I've been too involved in those types of games in the past. Like the barrier to entry is an appeal factor to it. Same with Chivalry, like that's the same thing there. But it's I get your point, but the community is weird.
They get over it though. If the game's good enough, then they'd get over it. That would be my if I'm like a developer, that would be my thing. It's like, this is how we intend it. We are developing the game for these people as primarily focused. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. Everything people love about Soulsborne games, but we don't want to exclude like 90% of the rest of the gaming audience.
Yeah.
So we're going to put a story-focused mode where he's just going to make things like the boss fights just not take 2 hours, and then one mistake, and you have to start the whole thing again.
Yeah, no saves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that. Because I think some like things like Elden Ring is like, I think the lore in that game could be really fascinating, but I just find the game stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what I want from games.
Well, I'm watching a playthrough of Elden Ring, and they're taking a pause and they're breaking it down into like 3 parts because it's so big. But like they got up to their first major boss fight in that one, and he's already at like 580 deaths because they do a death counter during the streams.
Yeah,
and it's like
that's not fun.
But in without trying to turn this whole show into us once again talking about why we don't like Soulsborne games. The rest of the state of play was quite interesting as well. We got an Until Dawn remaster, which we covered on last week's show as a rumour, enhanced for PS5 and PC launch coming later this year. My suspicion is Halloween. It's a great game, makes sense. Halloween, up-resed, and there's also a movie in the works, so it's perfect synergy with that. Richie, you going to go back to Until Dawn and kill all your characters off again?
Yep, probably.
Sounds about right.
I mean, especially if it came like PlayStation Plus towards Halloween, I think that could be either a good stream game or just...
Yeah,
even
I mean,
just
the
a night
original's
in.
part of PlayStation Plus. And then finally, we got the big one, which was,
Death
once
Stranding.
again, Hideo Kojima given like 15 minutes of the presentation just to talk about his own career and everything like that. And he came up with Herman Hulst, and they spoke about a movie preview. His new project he's working on, which is possibly the most exciting, is basically making a Metal Gear game in all but name.
Yeah.
He even said like espionage,
Action espionage.
title.
Yeah.
Based on the
What was that word?
based on
Do
the
you want
French
to try that one again?
action espionage. I've got a blocked nose. It's hard to say it. Based on a franchise he's worked on previously.
It was very,
we're making Metal Gear, guys. We're making Metal Gear. We can't say
No,
it, but
they're making a weapon to suppress Metal Gear. That's what they're doing.
yeah.
But then the big one was obviously Death Stranding 2, officially now subtitled On the Beach, which is the most random name to go with the style of game it is, but if you've played it, I'm sure it would make more sense. And yeah, we saw one of the typical Kojima cinematic masterpiece trailers that ran for about 9-10 minutes of just anything and everything. We saw crazy characters, elements of the world. We saw a marionette puppet that was running at 10 frames per second compared to the rest of the scene. That also looks like a little mini Alan Wake. We saw the BB baby, and a shit flew out of the BB baby's mouth, and there was a cat licking up oil on the floor that had bat wings. And then Troy Baker's character showed up with a guitar for a sword and fought 2 giant mechs, one of which seemingly is controlled by a baby. And this is the whole. And Norman Reedus was in the middle of it all, going, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
Kojima,
I don't know about Death Stranding. I remember on the run up the first one, just like, I don't know what this game is, and then I still don't fully understand what this game is meant to be. So
Yeah, I never played it because it's like, in the way you just described it there, it seems like I need to like dedicate some. I need like more mental space in my life to actually like absorb everything going on in the first one before I even try to go for the second.
I mean, if anything, it intrigued me, and I have spent a lot of the last week since thinking, like, do I just go and start Death Stranding now? Because the director's cut, I think, was on PlayStation Plus not long ago.
Yeah.
So it was like, maybe I'm in this window where I do jump in and play it, because I've heard polarizing reviews of it, but at the same time, I do think I'd enjoy it. It's got a lot of criticism saying it's a walking simulator, which again isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's a higher concept element of it that, like, the gameplay might be largely like about traversal from one place to another, but it's the concepts and the lore and the story, the whole artsy stuff that Kojima's trying to put into the game.
Yeah, which I think I'll enjoy.
Yeah.
It's just the scope of, do I want to spend 30 hours bringing an Amazon parcel from A to B is the big thing. But
Well, if it's on PlayStation Plus, it doesn't hurt to give it a go.
well, exactly.
I mean, the thing is, like, Metal Gear Solid 3 had those, like, the third one pops to mind, like, that had loads of, like, really long, kind of just walking about sections. Like, you know, like when you had to, like, walk through that river of all the people you killed.
The ghost, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also, like, the ladder climbing sequence. But all those, like, things had something else going on in them. So, like, yeah, you are just walking, but I think it's like a bit blind to say nothing else is going on around you in those terms. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair because I haven't played it, but it seems very simplistic as a criticism. Maybe.
I mean, it's the little Alan Wake doll. That again, it just looks so funny and out of place. Like when Norman Reedus takes it in the trailer and he goes to like put it on his back, like Mimir in God of War, and the little marionette thing's like, whoa, I don't want to be back here. Like, I want to be up front. I want to see all the action. So you attach him to like the front of his crotch instead. And then later on in the trailer, they get to the scene where even like Troy Baker's character like acknowledges him and goes, "Oh, who's this little fellow? Hello, guy." And he like his face turns into like a vampire's face with like red eyes and teeth, and he hisses at Troy Baker's character. It's like, there's enough quirkiness and batshit crazy Kojima-isms that I'm like, I kind of want to watch it to see what it's all about. I think out of just curiosity.
It very much feels like a game that you need to experience. I think what comes to my mind oddly is Journey, where if you describe what Journey is to people, you're this weird thing with a scarf traveling through a desert.
Yeah.
But it's so much, when you've played it, you know it's so much more than that.
If you're going to reduce it to that, I remember explaining, because I played Journey, and then I think I played Flower, which is the sequel to that, and it's basically you have flower petals in the wind, and you go along and collect other flower petals or something, and it tells like a fantastic story through the art animation. But trying to explain that to my sister-in-law, like what I was currently playing, was like, that's what you spend your time doing? It was like, yeah, there's more to it than that, though.
You watch your Love Island, let me play Flowers. That's with my flowers.
But
let's move on.
It's a big get for PlayStation. It's Kojima committing to them for another whole game, and yeah, it'll probably sell gangbusters.
Yeah, let's move on quickly. I want to go through the PlayStation Plus for February quite quickly, because we're almost an hour into the show and we've still got some other big news stories to go through.
And it's lame.
Yeah, Foam Stars, Roller Drome, and Steel Rising. Anything really there for you?
Bad month. Like Foam Stars should just be free to play anywhere. So putting it as like
Roller Drome again, I think should be free to play. If you want to get that game, have an audience, it kind of needs to be free to play to give people a chance to try it.
Yeah, my guess is with Final Fantasy and Helldivers this month, they don't need to give you a reason not to buy those two titles with this. So it's like give them some mid-level stuff to keep them busy in between. But we want them to go and buy Helldivers. We want them to go buy Final Fantasy, and we'll just sit back and take the money for February.
Yeah, that's just. They had a good January, and to be fair, this is just the essential list. The mid-month extra and premium drops haven't come yet, so it might be something better.
It's a short month.
Yes. But let's move on past that then, because, Chris, are you excited that Sony may be working on a successor to the Vita?
I mean, I'm always excited, because
just full stop.
Vita.
I just am
always
excited.
in life, I wake up there, living the dream. In terms of this year, the leaked rumour is that Moore's Law is dead. He's like a big YouTuber. He's been quite good in the past at kind of getting hardware leaks correct. I think he got a couple of the Portal stuff spot on. When it comes to it, apparently they're working with AMD for a processing chip that's kind of it lines in with some R&D around the high-level design of a new handheld. It's in a design phase, which means it technically would be about 2 years out from being an actual thing. Doesn't mean it's being greenlit, doesn't mean it's officially going to happen. We know these companies do research and development on all sorts of things, and I'd imagine Xbox have one. The Switch 2 is obviously going to come out probably later this year, so it's no doubt that Sony are going to dabble and see what they can pack into a handheld, and if it's viable as a business, that comes to fruition later. But we kind of discussed it at length when the Portal was leaked, and we didn't know what that was going to do, but the rise of the Steam Deck, or the success of the Switch, and then inevitably probably the Switch 2 and the ROG Ally, and there's a whole new pillar of this industry that's kind of grown over the last several years. And I think Sony, well, we said at the time, I mean Microsoft to a degree, they're a bit of a miss not being part of it. Like, it seems odd that you just, is something that runs so closely to your core business anyway, how you would look at that and go, why aren't we in this? If you've got like the what I would say lesser tech companies making handhelds, like was it Logitech G Cloud and stuff? Yeah. If you've got companies that aren't notorious for gaming making these things, then surely it's enough of a worthwhile for Sony to dip their toe in this pond.
I mean, I'd say Logitech not being notorious for gaming is a bit a miss there because Logitech are heavily involved in gaming.
Yeah, but if you played any of the first-party games, they don't make them. That's what
No,
I meant.
no,
Like games, gaming.
The hardware manufacturer, not software manufacturer.
Logitech webcams, kind of shit. But you know what I mean. Like they're not one of the big players. And again,
in the PC
I just can't.
space, so their hardware is actually top tier stuff. Yeah,
can't believe that Sony would just let Nintendo run away with the handheld world, and then Steam Deck to come in and take a chunk of that pie. It's like you should be owning a chunk of this industry.
It seems a bit like oversight or laziness, maybe. I don't really know.
Yeah, like that's the problem. Like I know Sony isn't as big as Microsoft; they don't have as much money to throw around. But then Microsoft actively haven't dipped their toe into VR at all. So it's interesting how these companies make decisions that I guess benefit their wider scope. But then it does make me think if you because the rumor with this one is it's going to be able to run PlayStation 4 games and pro patched PlayStation 5 games. And then if this realistically is by the time they get it out, you're looking at closer to the PS6 launch. You can imagine a world where the PS6 is your go-to console hardware, but if you want to play your back catalogue library of PS4 and PS5 games, which again in the digital world should all transfer over, but if you want to go handheld with them, it could be like, if you think the way technology evolves, it could be a perfect synergy of play all your old catalogue portably, but then for the latest stuff you have to have the console.
And then you got remote play if you want to bridge the gap to PS6 handheld.
Who?
Sorry, I wasn't quite there. And then you maybe use remote play to bridge the gap onto the PS6 titles if you want to go handheld.
And
that's kind of what I wanted for the Portal, to be honest. PS4 native, PS5 remote play.
Yeah, and they've kind of been leaning towards this PlayStation of having a suite of technology, like their ecosystem. We've seen it with their buds that come out now. We've got the Portal now, and they're all accessories, extensions of the core PS5. I wouldn't be surprised if they were looking at their business model and going, right, PS6 is our core. You've got the handheld market there, which is going to be the PSP 2 or Vita 2, whatever that ends up being. And then you've got the cloud element with the Portal. And then you've also got this range of accessories, headphones. Sony do the PlayStation PC monitors now. They've got a whole range of gaming gear that's branded as PlayStation. And we've lamented it a little bit, but they're leaning into that Apple world of it's top-end, expensive tech. If you want the best for your gaming, it has to be PlayStation branded. And I think they're doing a better job than Microsoft and Nintendo at it, so why can't they be the Apple of video games?
I think it's probably harder for Microsoft to do a portable console because with Game Pass already being on PC, that means any of the devices out there, these the Logitech G Cloud and the Steam Deck, you have Game Pass on it already. So Microsoft bringing out a dedicated handheld themselves is already competing against all of these other devices that have made it the market first. Where because PlayStation is a closed ecosystem, you can't. Unless Sony go, yes, you can play it. You just can't. So it's just... So there is something to be said there, but I think it could be interesting. This could turn out to be literally what I want the Portal to be. But, unfortunately, it won't be priced like the Portal when it comes out.
Yeah, you're talking £500, right? But, again, if they were willing to invest in VR, and that headset costs £500+, then what's to say they wouldn't write VR off and then next generation looked maybe to pivoting back towards a handheld instead? Because let's face it, we're not going to see a VR 3 anytime soon, right? So as a business, they're going to so they're going to look at investing in other areas, and let's face it, the PSP did sell gangbusters. It's just they missed out on the Vita, but then look what Nintendo did with the Wii U. They totally fucked up on that one and then doubled down and absolutely blew it out the water with the Switch. So I don't think you can write off an entire arm of the industry because of one blip or one bad run at it. You got to keep chipping away.
I agree. I think Sony should have kept just going and did bring out a successor to the Vita. I think part of the problem with the Vita was by the end, it being the Vita's lifespan was so long, it's no longer sexy or shiny. It probably felt a bit dated, and if the earlier announced a replacement, they could have kept that going, and now they have to kind of restart the whole thing. Yeah. But
and again, the whole industry and world's changed in our habits and stuff, and mobile gaming is a thing. But if the Switch and Steam Deck have taught us anything, is that people want to game portably, but on a dedicated piece of equipment, not their phone. I couldn't think of anything worse than playing on my phone and notifications come through all the time or distractions, and you have to close the whole thing down. It's like, no, I just want to put it on the floor, pick up my phone, reply to that, and then go back to what I was doing. So, yeah. Time will tell. It could come to nothing, but I'd be very excited if PlayStation announced a dedicated portable handset, because it's what I'd like.
Me too. You mentioned Apple, Chris, because we actually do have some Apple news next. Apple cloud gaming being introduced in iOS App Store. If Apple, have they watched the death of Google Stadia, went, now's our time to pounce.
Now's that time. Well, we've said for years, haven't we? Like, Apple are the only big tech player who aren't in this industry. Like, they have gaming, they've had it on their platform. They make millions upon millions of dollars every single year by taking a 30% cut from the App Store. It is a closed ecosystem, but seemingly they're ready to branch out, and we've seen it with the Pro Vision headset. We just laughed about VR and PlayStation making a bad choice. Have you seen the reviews for this Pro Vision headset coming out? This is a £3,500 headset that does loads of wonderful things, but
no one really wants.
No one really wants. It's not mass market. I'm very curious to think like this might be Apple's first like big flop. That they've I don't even think with all the branding and the
I don't
sleekness.
think that's meant to be mass market though. With the price, if Apple are putting that price on something and think it's mass market, then they're idiots, and they're not idiots. They know how to do mass market. I think this is a prototype for what they eventually want to get to. It's like, like when a new car, when Tesla first emerged, the focus on the absolute top end of the market, and they're slowly bringing in SKUs lower and lower down.
Yeah.
So they get that association with quality, and then you start getting the mass market come later.
The trouble is, you already have like the Quest 3, which is like I like my head's been turned by that. Like honestly, I almost bought one this month, but then I realised I needed a new laptop, so like that trumped it. But
but there's diehard Apple fans who will just buy anything with Apple on it, so I don't think they need to worry too much.
I don't know.
Anyway, that's not the story price. Anyway. The story about the cloud gaming on the iOS App Store.
Yeah, so the cloud gaming comes into it from a point of last week we reported that the iOS store was going to open back up to cloud gaming apps. So we know in the past Apple have blocked Microsoft from Xbox having an Xbox cloud gaming app, GeForce Now, and Stream Arcade. You had to basically play through the Safari browser rather than a dedicated app, because Apple couldn't take a cut of the purchase profits because it was purchased through the app instead of via the App Store. If that makes sense, sounds a bit convoluted, and Apple didn't want that. They can't take a 30% cut of you buying Halo Infinite on Xbox Game Pass because it
led
goes
to the
straight
whole
direct to
lawsuit
Microsoft.
with Epic and stuff.
Yeah, Epic weren't happy because the Fortnite app, and every time someone spent money on Fortnite, 30% went to Apple, and Epic were like, well, what the fuck, you're doing nothing, Apple, other than hosting it. Why should you get 30% of every transaction?
But at that point, they weren't even hosting it. The game's just on someone's device.
So that was a whole thing. But then for them to randomly come out the other week and make a global decision that it's now back open, everyone's now thinking, like, actually, why would they do that out of the goodness of their own heart? And I think Apple don't make any decisions that aren't long term going to benefit them. And the big rumor is exactly. And the rumor is like, actually, if they're ready to get into gaming, from a monopolization standpoint, they can come up against that lawsuit of you can't have your own dedicated streaming app, but not allow competition to be on that storefront. So this, I think, is the first maybe domino ready to fall, and then we'll get some maybe later behind the scenes stuff, because Netflix are doing it as well. We know they're leaning into gaming. Death Stranding runs on the iPhone 15 Pro now, and Resident Evil 4 also does, to apparently a really good, sufficient quality. But we know if they want to get in with the latest and greatest AAA stuff, no matter how good their iPhones are, they ain't running the latest stuff.
Even the latest stuff could maybe handle it, but the price point of that premium device would be so hard, and most people aren't walking around with 15 Pros. They'll be walking around with the 15, the base 15, or whatever they call it.
So what's the easiest step for them to alleviate that? Cloud gaming. They have the infrastructure, they have the mass market, they have the brand appeal. They've watched other people come and go in Google, and they've watched Amazon make failings with it, and then now do they step in and go, right, everyone who's on Apple Arcade, how about Apple Arcade Plus? And for an extra couple of quid a month, you get access to the biggest AAA titles on your iOS devices, Mac, PC, iPhone, iPad. Go for it. And I think I mean, they've just got everything. They've got all the ducks in a row, right, to just swoop in and be like, yeah, we do gaming now, AAA gaming. And they have a big enough market appeal globally that I think that they should have done it years ago. But
I don't think they're going to go, hey, here's our cloud gaming platform, like where like Google and Amazon basically did, and both of them effectively flopped. I know Amazon Luna's still going, but somehow it's still going. Google did kind of flopped, unfortunately. Where I think with Apple, they're going, with the iStore, people play games on Apple devices all the time. We can just slowly bridge cloud gaming into Apple Arcade, and then you've got things like Macs, where Mac's not really geared that well for gaming at times. That can also be a thing there. So you just download quote unquote a game through your Mac, and then just play it. So you could be playing the latest AAA game on a Mac, but it's not native, and they probably won't even tell you it's not running through the cloud. No, on Apple. There'll be something in the terms and conditions.
They'll just put a fancy word. It's like iGame or something.
They'll just say play now. That'll be all it is. Buy it, play now. Done. That's it. And there'll be something in the terms and conditions that says not running natively, it's running through the cloud.
Yeah. I think with the VR, they're not in VR. They actively make a point of not using the word VR in any of the marketing for this thing. It's like something reality, they call it. But yeah, the fact that they're willing to spend that much R&D in a headset, and then with all the gaming tiers and the way they invest in that Resident Evil and Death Stranding, is like they're doing enough in the gaming world that I feel like the dam's ready to break on what their next big thing is. And if you look back over the years, they had Apple TV was introduced, they had Apple Arcade that's introduced, and as a business, they always kind of like launch something big every 5 years. Yeah. And I think gaming is just the outlier that makes a shit ton of money, and their tech is already kind of very centric around it, so it seems like the next logical choice, but
yeah,
we'll have to see.
I just can't see them pitching this as a kind of competitor to Xbox and PlayStation. I think that's where Stadia Main went wrong, where they pitched it against them and then just didn't stand up to that criticism.
But then this is where Apple have they have the user base already.
Yeah,
it's not like you need to get someone commit. It's pre-existing in the billions.
Rather than going on the stage, here's our platform. This is why you should get into it. It's going to go up against the big guys already in the space. I think they'll just go, well, actually, this thing that you already use in Apple Arcade is now just got better. It's now running the biggest, greatest AAA titles, and Resident Evil 4 and Death Stranding could kind of be Apple's equivalent to Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, and Doom Eternal. Well, they're the kind of the ones that Google were kind of pushing at the start. It could be there. So I think you're right. I think the dam is ready to break, probably in the summer.
They could come out and say AAA award-winning game Suicide Squad is now free on Apple Arcade.
And no one will care. Because, Chris, how are the reviews looking? Because mixed, from what I can see.
I don't even want to take this one.
I'll take this one.
Go for it, Rob.
It's so average to bad. This is the thing when people say mixed reviews. What they mean is there's like 2 people who said it's like an 8 out of 10, and then the rest of people are like
4 reviewers on Metacritic give it a positive.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so that's the
only
the
one giving negative.
Mixed. It's just very unremarkable for such like a strong IP with like a strong history of what they've made in the Arkham series. I don't have anything interesting to say about it. Like, I know lots of people complaining about some of the narrative choices they've made, which I think you can take that either way. Like, you know,
I've read a handful of the reviews on Metacritic earlier. VGC is the most positive one I could find, giving it an 80. And the general consensus I was picking up from the critic reviews is the gameplay is actually better than expected. Mm-hmm. However, it's like almost like reminds me a bit of Marvel's Avengers. Some of the way they're talking about, like once you get through out the other end of the story and get into what is meant to be the bread and butter of a games as a service thing, which is going to be the online experience, it just feels repetitive and bland.
Yeah, I mean the repetitive and bland thing is the key thing. So like, I don't think it's a spoiler to say like who the bosses are in this game because of the title. I feel like that's a fair spoiler to
literally the Justice League.
So, like, guess how you handle each of the boss fights and how eventually each of the bosses die. They just succumb to bullets. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
It feels like it's games as a service. It reminds me so much of Avengers in the reviews, where it's like the story's actually really good. The gameplay, when you're playing through when the narrative's doing the heavy lifting, the gameplay is fun and engaging. But once you get out the other end, because the story in these games is effectively a tutorial for what the main part of the game is, which is going to be the online experience, it's just not there.
No.
It's like, why am I still playing this?
I've listened to a lot of coverage of it, and from like some big DC fans as well, and the overall like kind of summary is just disappointment. And like I've even listened to some go as far as, at least with Avengers, the characters felt individual. So when you played as Thor compared to Captain America compared to Black Panther, there was a distinct difference. This is just a different person with a range of gun components, to a point where a character that would traditionally use the hands to punch, so someone like Captain Boomerang, for example, apparently the button to do that is still aim down the sights and punch with like gun mechanics. So they haven't even tweaked it enough that it doesn't just feel like the same, like Fortnite skin almost swapped out for the same character. Reading from IGN's review, because IGN gave it a 5, they were probably they got the most harshest criticism before the reviews went up by people defending the game. And I think this review summarises our thoughts and what our worries and expectations were going into this after like all the previews and such. So reading from IGN, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a thoroughly frustrating game to play. There are things to enjoy here, with the combat that's snappy enough to carry it through a genuinely good DC comic story, artfully dressed in high production values, but everything else just falls down around it. Engaging mission design is nearly non-existent. The looter-shooter mechanics are tired and dull, and the grotesquely repetitive post-game leaves little to nothing to do of any interest. The result is a bit of a mess that doesn't ever impress with any of its numerous ill-conceived ideas. It's not bad, it's just disappointing from Rocksteady, pioneers of single-player story action chasing already outdated multiplayer trends. A city of tomorrow built on the unstable foundations of yesterday. 5 out of 10.
I think
Mediocre.
with the IGN review, it might be fair to quibble over the number, but with the review, pretty much every outlet's kind of saying similar things in different ways. Like, so you might go, it's harsh giving it a 5, but a different review at IGN might have wrote the same like summary, but give it a low 7. Like, it really depends. If you're a big Rocksteady fan, you're probably going to treat it harsher.
Yeah, which is why we've been so harsh in it, because we all loved the Batman trilogies and what they did and how well, and we've had to wait nearly a decade to be told this is what they were working on.
You know,
I think the trouble is they've built like a framework of a game, like they want to make, and then just thought, oh, hey, actually, we can just stick this like.
But it just seems like a template.
Right.
Like if you read some of the reviews, it feels like they've just took the tropes of the looter shooter games as a service genre and went, that'll do, and not done anything interesting them, and not used the IP to bring out interesting aspects of that.
It's particularly like the shooter element of it, which I think like really lets it down. And like there's like certain like franchises where the introduction of a gun would dramatic, like if you introduce a gun to Harry Potter, right, like the narrative drastically changes, and it like whatever. It just doesn't make sense for like a superhero. Like imagine if like the Spider-Man games never introduced more like advanced enemies apart from the low-level thugs that shoot you. Like it would just be a hell of a boring game.
Instead of swinging around New York City, just walking on the floor with a machine gun.
Yeah, or like you just have like this like aim web shoot type of shit. Like it's just disappointing, and it doesn't devalue like the work that went into like the Arkham 4 games, because like Origins is unfairly like left out of that trilogy, but like it just, I don't know, it sours the end of it, I guess.
It all just seems a bit lost, doesn't it? Is what I don't think this is a game Rocksteady wanted to make. I think this is a game the board of WB asked them to make, and that is the biggest problem of it all, is the talent wasted. And where the story shines through, of course, they made 3 terrific story games in this world, but yeah, just some of the people who played it have said things like, imagine if it wasn't the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Imagine if it was Batman kills the Justice League because something's happened and he has to take them down himself.
Yeah.
And it was a single-player game without all the shooting, the same mechanics from the Arkham games, but Batman taking down the Justice League. It's like, I'm already more sold on that than
I can
how
see the
this is
original
work.
picture being something like going, like, actually, we want to make a Harley Quinn game where Harley Quinn has to kind of take out the Justice League, and that's going to be our single-player narrative. And then when they've pitched it to the board, and the board went, well, the big thing at the moment is games as a service, so you're going to have to make it multiplayer. So we'll expand it to Suicide Squad then. And then they just start trying to crowbar features in that they're just like, well, but we've never done this before. It's not what we want to do, and you end up with just a mess of a game. Like
they need to chill out with Harley Quinn as well.
They just need the Suicide Squad's just not that interesting. In principle, it could be. But it needs the foundations there of a well-established like Gotham universe to carry it, and it's not a first act kind of thing you do. It's like several. It's like if they brought Thanos out in the first MCU kind of in the first like Avengers game. It's too early for that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that aside, I think the worst thing about this game is I'm not even remotely surprised.
Yeah, I think we all kind of saw it coming, didn't we?
Yeah.
I was hoping to be wrong, and then
same.
It turns out apparently Gotham Knights is probably going to be better in the long run than this.
Yeah, all right. We've got time for a couple more stories, so I'm going to let you pick where you want to go next, because there's still a few things we could talk about. So, Rob, brought to you first. Where do you want to go?
I will highlight Deus Ex being cancelled. Obviously, like the layoffs around the Embracer Group, and they're quite widely known. And this has been a game that's been... Well, the franchise as a whole has been in a bit of a bad way for a while. Yeah, like they've made some missteps and whatever.
Was Mankind Divided the last game that actually brought out the franchise?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, God, yeah, Jesus. And yeah, so like it's been a franchise that's been struggling, which is a real shame because, like, especially the first one, that was the first game I had on PC. It came like pre-bundled with like the PC I bought in like a big cardboard box, as the way PC games used to be back then. So yeah, game's been cancelled, and it doesn't seem like there's a way forward for this franchise, which I'm highlighting just because it makes me sad, not because it's a particularly big story around, I guess the wider gaming sphere.
Yeah, I played a bit of Mankind Divided. It was a very interesting... Well, I never finished it, but it was like a very interesting game. It was something a bit different.
Yeah,
but that was 2016.
Yeah, I couldn't really get into that game. Like I don't know, I think like the shooting mechanics or something just like seemed very...
It's a game I respected rather than loved.
Yeah. Like everyone has like the downside, like everyone like had their misgivings with Human Revolution, but I really like that game, and I guess that was the first acceptable standard. So the last acceptable standard game for me in that series. Yeah. So yeah, very sad news.
It just highlights Embracer's poor handling of everything, isn't it? Like the way they expanded and acquired so much, and we know it's happening. It seems to be happening. We got Time Splitters cancelled the other week, and now they're shuttering this one. But just looking at Adios Montreal, it's such a shame that they did a fantastic Shadow of the Tomb Raider entry. We got Marvel's Avengers, better than the Suicide Squad. That's now gone and shut down. So was essentially going to be their money maker, which they helped out with Crystal, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, which was very, very underrated. It's a fantastic game, and seemingly now you just wonder internally, now they're part of Embracer, who's truly making the decisions. Are they independent, can do what they want to, or have they been shoehorned into other projects? If this gets cancelled, that means I feel like they've been dragged to work on. If you Embracer, I get the vibe that they're going to go with a trusted franchise. I
feel like Embracer have almost went too big before being established. So, like, because they've not really had any hits.
But they're dragging people down with them now. And, like, my worry is, do we get Square Enix come on, or the next Tomb Raider games cancelled as well? Because they're pivoting to work on other known IP or something.
Yeah.
It's just I wish, I would have rather Microsoft acquired Crystal and Square and everything.
That's the thing. Like, this is what I think I was saying quite a bit last year with the Embracer. It feels like they bought all these things, and like I think Dead Island was the first game where you'd actually go, yeah, that kind of landed well. Everything else has kind of just been just slightly disappointing. That haven't made that step up to be an established AAA studio, like publisher yet, and they own a lot of IP and a lot of different studios, and it feels like you're getting to the point where probably the money is starting to get a bit worried that they're not seeing any return. They've got this huge investment out there, a lot of money in lots of studios, and if no money's coming back in, eventually it's got to give.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, 97 people have just lost their jobs.
Yeah, it's a. I think they tried to buy the way to something, and it's just completely failed.
But it's what I mean. I think they went too broad. Rather than going, we're going to stay small, we're going to get a handful of titles out, and then use the money from that to then build and then build and build. They just went, let's spread our wings as much as possible.
And you have to bear in mind, like everything they've done now is built on debt.
Yeah,
and debt isn't as cheap as it was even 2 years ago, even 1 year ago, right? Like,
I mean, I don't know how well these figures are, but I'm glancing at the Embracer Group wiki page, and pretty much the revenue, operating income, net income, total assets, and total equity are all up in 2023. According to Wikipedia, I don't know how relevant that is and how the numbers are calculated. But it's like, I look at that and go, is that a true reflection of what's going on?
probably not. You can fudge those numbers for a year or two.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we'll see a lot more come out with Embracer in the next
Yeah, I want them to succeed. To be honest, I do, because it's having another big publisher in the gaming space is good. I think for the gaming space, especially over the last few years when we've seen a lot of kind of consolidation of the industry, having someone else step up.
Yeah.
So it's not just Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and Ubisoft. Like,
I just want to see some stuff. Like 2 years development for Time Splitters. Tomb Raider's been a year and a half plus now. Should have been a lot more. Now Deus Ex has gone as well, and we're probably not going to get another Guardians of the Galaxy game. It's just like, just put something out that isn't just like generic AA shit. Like something good. Don't give me another SpongeBob game. Like something like good.
Well, the SpongeBob games might be the bread and butter that keep things ticking over.
Like remember, these guys have the Lord of the Rings license. What is that going to look like? If you give it to Crystal or these, Adios Montreal, I have no doubt they could come up with a phenomenal Lord of the Rings game.
But are these still the same studios as the ones were? Just because they've got the same name, if a lot of the talent's left?
It feels like they've lost their identities as soon as they get pulled in.
Yeah. Well, yeah, people become disillusioned, they leave, they go, I'm going to go work for somewhere. And again, all these studios, like especially in like Montreal, like there's so many options around you. If you're a talented developer in any field, you'd be like, we've just been bought out, potential redundancies, I'm going to go work for PlayStation or EA or somewhere who's got like a more concrete foundation for job security. And then you get to go work on a fun IP, whereas seemingly you're getting brought in and told, like, we're shutting this down, we're shutting that down, we're hemorrhaging money, we don't know what we're doing, we don't have direction. You're just like, I don't want to work here.
And you think anytime there's a massive shift in a company like that, that's when people start looking elsewhere, because when people get insecure in their jobs, people start naturally looking around, and then unfortunately talent will find places to go, so you can accidentally lose your best talent.
Well, I think this is the trouble when like big companies buy studios, and like most of these like companies like who buy them, like they're led by finance and management, aren't they, right? And like I think like the fact that when you buy especially a developer house or like any service based company, you're not really buying a company, you're buying a collection of people. And
it's a creative industry.
Yeah,
so
as soon as you
matters.
disrupt that collection of people, like, you know, what you've bought fundamentally changes, and I think that gets lost a lot of time on these like bigger deals. So
in a creative industry, it's not like you can we're buying all the processes and stuff that go to make a game. That's fantastic. You got all that stuff. It could be well established, but if you don't have the right people come up with the right ideas and knowing how to implement them within the construct of them processes, it doesn't really matter.
No, not at all.
Well, eventually you might be able to just use AI to kind of formulate a game, but I think there'll always be something missing unless you have that human element. It's why people love Kojima. As insane as that man is, you can tell whatever the fuck's happening in Death Stranding came out of his head.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Chris, one more to round us out.
Probably just touch on Palworld again. Just insane success. Like over another week, it's past 19 million players. Which we did actually find out that 7 million were on Xbox. So Xbox, again, don't really reveal their numbers. So finding out that 7 million were on Xbox, undoubtedly via Game Pass or PC, is just keeps getting bigger and bigger. There's a few people I've spoke to at work this week who've been playing it, and it's like it seems to have branched out beyond the usual kind of casual audience, or into the casual audience, I should say. And I haven't really wanted to go back and play it myself, but that's just because I'm pulled in other directions. But 19 million is huge.
I think if this game came out 10 years ago, there would be, do you like those like Hitler remix videos everyone would make, where it's like the angry Hitler.
Why do you always bring up Hitler?
Did I bring him up last time? Whatever. But like, it's like the remix, the videos of him like going really angry on all his generals and stuff. There'd be one on this where it's like there's like Nintendo CEOs and then like the legal team, and he's just like, why is this not a thing?
Yeah. Slamming down on the table.
But I genuinely think we're looking at the potential next Fortnite here. It might not be a Fortnite killer, but I think 19 million that quick.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna I think this is here to stay now.
If it can retain them, if it's like long goal, which again,
it's early access.
It's just the irony of the games industry that this game that came out that has like it's in early access, it's not a finished product, it's got a bit of colourful creatures and this and that, and it sells 19 million, and then we're there lamenting Suicide Squad with an IP as rich and deep as DC. Want to do a game that would get anywhere near these numbers, and they seemingly can't even be over mediocre in their review scale, and yet Palworld just comes out there and eats their lunch, breakfast, dinner and tea all in one go, and it's like, wow, you really just can't get it with games, can you?
No, it's sometimes so hard to predict.
It's like cultural, if it gets like that meme status, that stuff that sends it viral, it can just be anything. It's like PUBG in a way as well, isn't it? Like, PUBG's fun, but it's not in any stretch a great game, and yet that holds like the Steam record for 3.3 million people playing it concurrently.
Yeah, it came out at the right time.
How many people in the studio have interest? Like, is it? I'd be surprised if it's over double figures. They don't even have like a Wikipedia entry. I can't even look it up. But like, imagine the crushing pressure you must like. Do you remember that South Park episode where Mrs. Garrison becomes president and like it's like a Trump thing, but then she's like kind of, it might be Mr. Garrison, I don't know. It just like he starts like shitting herself because like she was like it was all a joke and she's actually realised she has to do something now, and she's like, oh no, yeah.
We didn't mean to win.
Basically, can you imagine the upscaling of staff at Pocket Pair now? Like by this time next year, they're going to have like a new office. Their workforce is going to have to be like tripled, quadrupled, and stuff.
Yeah,
it's mad. Like, what a success story, right?
The CEO's going to end up like that Coney 2012 guy, and like just like crack from the stress and start like beating off in public or something.
Yeah. Wow.
So he did. That's what he did.
Well, yeah, I hope for them that because I think it must be very like terrifying actually for a business to explode like this on this scale.
Yeah, like
I know every businessman wants to see the business grow, but it's like
not that quickly. You don't.
Yeah, it's like how do we handle this? Like I think you just have to hold your nerve and just be patient. Go, it's in early access. It's not out yet. We're just going to don't overspend. Figure out the best ways to invest the money when it's coming through. So you don't just blow it all in this fancy new studio, and by the time it comes out with early access, the game's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, with that many players, they've made so much bank.
You could just stop. Probably.
Yeah.
Give every one of member of your staff like £1 million and just go, right, guys, job done. You could genuinely do that. You could just go, right, £1 million for you, £1 million for you, £1 million for you. There's your bonus. We'll keep this going along, but if it falls tits up, we're all good.
I mean, that model's worked for like crowdfunded games for the last few years, haven't it? Just like sometimes they don't even bring a game out at the end of it. So
I think if it was me, I was the CEO, and like it's like a 10-person team, and suddenly we've got like 50 million in the bank. I think I would just give everyone a £1 million bonus and go, look, no matter what happens from here now, you've earned this. We've earned this. If this whole thing goes tits up, we're all going to be okay.
Why would you keep working? Like, sorry, if I was a dev at then in my contract was like my bonus structure is if we make X amount, you get a percentage of those bonus, and I end up rounding out 20/20 PS4 with like £1 million in the bank, I ain't working ever again. I'm just going to retire happily.
Because if you keep working, that million turns into many more millions.
Yeah, but I'd rather just kick the money and like maybe invest elsewhere. But that's my own
invest
story.
in the studio and go back to go home and just chill out. Every single member of the staff ends up a member of the board.
Yeah, like if one of us won the lottery, I'd quite happily like not work again. Tell us three like we're all fine. I'll give you all £1 million or something.
Yeah, I will pay your salary.
We'll buy a studio and we'll keep doing this show just for shits and giggles. But for the most part, we just no commitments. We play more games.
Yeah, I think that's all we have time for you this week, though. There was a question from Gary P82 who wrote it out from a Discord, but I think we'll answer that next week. It's not overly time depending, and we're already an hour and a half into the show. So thanks to you, Gary, for writing in. We will get back to that question later. And with that, do you want to look at this week in video game history? Is anything jumping out?
Let's do this 30 seconds. Let's see what's coming out.
Yeah. Just really quick.
We're still in January, aren't we? So
XCOM 2.
It's Sunday the 4th.
February.
XCOM 2 8 years ago. That's responsible for about 150 hours of my life, so...
Yeah,
XCOM 2.
Nothing for me.
Yeah,
Pokemon Bank came out 10 years ago.
And it's closed.
On the 3DS.
Has it closed? Or it's closing this month.
Closing,
yeah.
The original Demon's Souls on PS3 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And Turok on PS3.
Turok was the 64 game.
It was. It must have got a port, did it, a little bit later.
Probably, yeah. But that
should come back.
Yeah, but that's all we... Yeah, should do, actually. But that's all we have time for you. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you kept in the loop of all the great content here at GamerGuildTV, on YouTube and on podcast services such as our live streams, our coverage of the state of play, our podcasts, and very much more. And with that, my name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
GG everyone. Goodbye.